Hello. Happy Be Humble and Reflect Day, also known as Thanksgiving. I take a lot of time to reflect on the holidays, um, which don't seem to make a lot of sense to me. And I think on Thanksgiving, there's no better time to reflect on this. I guess like since I grew up Jehovah's Witness, I didn't celebrate holidays. I celebrated a few, but birthdays, Christmas, Easter, Halloween. I didn't really celebrate these very much. And now that I'm older and I can celebrate if I want to, I don't understand the point of them, and I'm learning the history of them, and it's still not making much sense to me. So I would like to be a part of recreating the holidays, and like cherishing them and having them be sacred and special. So Thanksgiving, in the early 1600s and even in the 1500s, there was times in Florida or Massachusetts where the native people broke bread with settlers, pilgrims, Englishmen, and but that was very short-lived. There was massacres in between them at that time, at that location. Over like 90% of the native people had been wiped out by English diseases and European diseases. Wiped out, like 90% of them dead, like died from diseases that were brought over. So like these lands were taken. These lands were taken, the Hawaiian lands were taken from the Hawaiian people, and I think they should be about them. Like, why not let native people decide what we do on the holiday that could be dedicated to them? Like, maybe it could be a more solemn day where we reflect on different cultures and traditions that were lost. Like, the worst thing I can possibly think that we could ever do is take someone's traditions and culture away from them. And that's what happened to Native Americans and Hawaiians. Like, their culture became outlawed, their language became outlawed, they were indoctrinated with Christian practices and principles, indoctrination into whatever we brought over because we thought that was what was best for them. When they had deep, deep reverence of the land, they knew how to honor and worship the land that they walked on. They knew how to use everything, use all of the buffalo, not waste. Like, we waste so much in our culture. We waste and we waste and we waste. And we use and we use and we use. It's just taking and taking and taking. So, like, I guess Thanksgiving in the name is giving. Like, what can we give back? And what can we be thankful that we already have instead of just continuing to take more? So I don't know how, like, in the spirit, like, I don't know if we can convert Thanksgiving into something with more reverence. And then the next day is Black Friday. Buy more shit, buy more shit, buy more shit. Consumerist holiday. And then buy more shit, whine, want more shit until Christmas when you just are given a bunch of stuff, and a lot of it is plastic. A lot of the toys we give our children are plastic, and they're going to outlive those children. Like, where is our consciousness and heart in, like, being very conscious of what we buy, what we take? Like, the money that we make is hard earned. Like, can we not be more conscious? on the passable plastic items that are bought that might not be needed. And like, can we not be open to like other cultures and how they do ceremonies and rituals and how deep they can be? Like something that I miss is like my culture doesn't really have these deep practices that these Native Americans that were wiped out had. And like I'm grateful that I'm in places where there is ceremony. We drum, we sing, we have like we sit in saunas, these like hot huts that are heated incredibly hot, and we chant and we pray. And we release and we cry and we scream, and like this very deep way of living is something that I feel like I can't reach in modern culture, and that we're not taught. So often I go find them. I go to places where people want to be deep and want to be real, and that's where I feel safe. Like it wasn't always that way. This is what we talked about in our book club today, is like I was crying in our book club and someone reflected, like, if I were to see you crying and like being vulnerable like a year ago, I would have felt very uncomfortable around it. I would have felt like very uncomfortable. And then they've done work on themselves, and now they can see me, and they can be a conduit for seeing me instead of a filter for seeing me. And they could just like let it come in and flow through. And like I was that way. I was very like fun and shallow and superficial, but like in like this like really fun, playful way. Like I was kind of the adventure friend and the spontaneous adventure person. But like depth, like real depth and people crying, I had like a deep aversion to that. And now I have like what makes me feel unsafe is when I'm around all these people and they're wearing masks and they're not being their true selves, and they're hiding this depth and vulnerability from themselves and the world. And that makes me feel unsafe. Like seeing someone deeply have an experience makes me feel so calm and like normal. And I wish that there was more of a craving for something that people might not know, which is deep reverence and even like grief. Like I did a weekend grief ceremony. It was a very deep portal into grieving, like so many things come up in like grief ceremonies. They're so deep. And like I thought about my Uncle Kenny, who he had a rough life, and I think in childhood he had maybe some kind of molestation. He ran away. We live in Missouri, and he's gay, and most of his siblings are kind of Republican and conservative, and like he didn't feel like he fit in, and he was addicted to alcohol, and he just kept drinking and drinking, and he had this loving partner, and I love visiting them, and they made me more open to, when you know someone who is gay and they're either one of your friends or one of your family, it makes you more open to it. And I'm so grateful that I had him in my life as a kid to like help me be more loving and open to all people. And anyways, the doctor said if you keep drinking, you will die before you hit 50. And he kept drinking and he died at 49. And like his little lungs filled up with fluid. It's something that happens with like people who drink too much alcohol, and his eyes turned yellow from jaundice, and his like liver or something was failing. Like he like suffered so deeply, and that created an addiction that took his life prematurely. And that's like the gift that he made me think of at this grief ceremony was like, what am I doing to continue suffering in my life? And how could that affect me and like have me live less of a full life than I could? And like, I want to like owe it to him and owe it to myself to like take that lesson and cherish it and like with deep reverence and live more fully and keep healing and like keep moving forward in life. So yeah, another thing that came up in the grief ceremony was how how the Native American people, their culture was taken from them, or at least tried, and how sad, and how like that is the saddest thing I could think of at that time, was like how sad that is. So yeah, and there is a lot to be thankful for. Like, I think there's so many gifts in being grateful for what you have every day, and switching from always thinking about what you don't have, complaining, like thinking of how much you're suffering, how like it's easy to get stuck in that. And I do believe that if you want to switch your life, you could use gratitudes, daily gratitudes, to help you get there, like a gratitude journal. Or like in Bali, I had this roommate. We slept in the same giant bed, and it was just totally cool. She was like this Asian chick. And every night before we went to sleep, we would talk and talk and talk. She would say, what are some things you're grateful for? And we would share a few things every night, right before we went to sleep, of what we're grateful for. And I loved that, like, invitation. I loved that invitation. And, like, I do that, not daily, but, like, with my friends or family. I like to check in and be like, hey, let's do some popcorn, what we're grateful for. So, yeah. I guess to finish up on the holidays, the reflecting that I've been doing is that they're like seem to be consumerist holidays, and also like diabetic holidays with all the sugar we excite kids with and give, and little plastic eggs for Easter, and all the goodies and snacks for the two holidays. And then also Halloween is all about candy and sugar too. So like, can we not brainstorm? I'm asking people if they want to brainstorm, like, what can be done differently? Like, can we bring more consciousness into it? Can we reorient the holidays to be less about corporate America and more like about our hearts, or sharing, or like having authentic spaces opened between family members where we can be more vulnerable with each other? And like maybe there's like sacred sharing ceremonies we could create, or go volunteer, like Earth Day. I picked up a cannabis site. A lot of times there's illegal cannabis growers that pop up on private property and destroy the lands. They like to destroy it, and they were planting the cannabis in solo cups. You know, those like, right? So there was thousands of solar cups scattered on this property of my neighbor, and he showed us it, and we're like, we'll clean this for you. And my whole group of friends, because we lived across the street, got our big truck, and we went over there on I'm like recovering from a cold, so that's why it's a bit hard for me to talk well. But we went over there, and the group of us cleaned this entire giant grow site, all the PVC, all of the solo cups, all of the plastic trash, all of the gas cans, all of the pesticides, containers. And we took it to the landfill and properly disposed of all of it. But that's a gift. That's a gift that we were able to give my neighbor, who was elderly and like couldn't do it themselves and shouldn't have to. It's like, can we do community service projects on some of these holidays? Can we actually give back instead of just stuffing our faces and getting into a coma from that Theo whatever that's in Turkey that makes us sleep? I can tell you the two best Thanksgivings I ever had were vegan Thanksgivings. So that's creative and fun as well. I'm not saying you have to give up your thing. I'm just saying, like, think about different ideas, like neuroplasticity in the brain. I feel like we as humans can do things better. And that's like the conversations that I want to be a part of. So feel free to like put in the comments any like cool ideas that you had maybe while thinking of this, or any like anything you care to share. Thanks for seeing me. That's it for today. Happy Thanksgiving.